Gentleman yields back. Ms. LaMalfa, for an additional 5 minutes, you had a couple other questions. Doug?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence. Ms. McCarthy, once again, I will try and just keep this to asking for an offline clarification and then a couple yes and no's. So I appreciate your time and that you're gracious with what you've answered the questions today. Just to bring your attention quickly, a presidential memorandum recently issued. It's called the Mitigating Impacts on Natural Resources from Development and Encouraging Related Private Investments. So I don't expect you know this on the spot here, but again, mitigating impacts on natural resources from development and encouraging related private investments. It's a fairly new presidential memorandum. It appears to be carrying the weight of an executive order and seems like a really quite a significant departure from current policy, looking like it's going to go back and reassess every possible impact that a man-made activity might have on public land or any natural resource on federal projects. So do you plan to follow this policy, and can you walk me through in a letter later on how you do plan, are you aware of that title?
I have not been made familiar with the details, so I'll have to get back to you on how my agency would respond. We have very little ownership of federal lands.
Okay. Well, it might have an effect on all federal lands, so we're still catching up too. I'd appreciate if your office can clarify to that in a letter offline here. And on the previous questions I had on Clean Water Act, again, regarding plowing, and this is very important to several of my constituents have gotten in some hot water up in the district there on the 404 exemption of the Clean Water Act. Current Clean Water Act regulations provide that plowing, in quotes, will never involve a discharge unless it changes any area of waters of the United States to dry land. So I'm familiar with that with growing rice that along about 1985, the sod buster, swamp buster regulations. So, but since we do have this 404 exemption, does this regulation really truly mean what it says? Because that's what my growers are wondering, that there is an exemption for 404 under plowing.
My understanding is for plowing, yes.
Okay. Was this regulation intended to assure farmers that their plowing would not be regulated under the Clean Water Act?
That would be its intent, yes.
Okay. So, and it might be repetitive here, but I have to do this. So does it mean that plowing is not regulated under the Clean Water Act unless it actually changes waters to dry land?
Waters to dry lands?
Something deemed as waters of the United States. If it's changed it from water, it's exempt
or the
unless
other way
you're doing
around,
something.
change land to water.
Water, yeah, a watered land to a dry land, which is what I talked about maybe in the swamp buster, sod buster, and FSA. So you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
Can farmers continue to rely on this regulation? This is the important takeaway here. Can they continue to rely on the regulation as interpreted under 404 as an exemption and continue plowing their fields?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you for your time and indulgence. I yield back.